They called them monsters, unstoppable beasts of steel that turned brave men to ash. The Tiger and Panther, legends of German might, feared from Tunis to the Rhine. But here's the twist that history forgot: the tank that beat them wasn't tougher or faster. It just talked better. Welcome to the radio revolution, where America's secret weapon wasn't a gun, it was a whisper. Ladies and gentlemen, history buffs, and armchair generals, welcome to the radio revolution, how America's wireless edge won World War II. You've heard the myths: hulking tigers vaporizing Shermans like tin cans, panthers prowling Normandy's shadows as invincible predators. German engineering at its peak, brute force and genius forged in the fires of desperation. But peel back the legends, and you'll find a war decided not by the clash of armor, but by the hum of electrons. This isn't a tale of superior steel. It's the story of how a simple radio turned ragtag American tankers into a symphony of destruction, outmaneuvering the Reich's finest through voices that cut through chaos. From the scorching sands of Kasserine Pass to the frozen hell of the Bulge, we'll uncover the SCR 508's hidden magic, the crystal-clear FM lifeline that let Sherman swarm like bees while Panzers prowled alone. Drawing on veterans' diaries, ace confessions, and battlefield dispatches, we'll shatter the Duel of Kings narrative and reveal the network that won the war. So, grab your headphones, fire up the engine, it's time to tune in to the frequency that changed everything. The revolution starts now. Chapter 1: The Myth of the Tiger and Panther. In the annals of World War II, few images evoke more awe than the hulking silhouettes of German Tiger and Panther tanks rolling across the European theater. The Tiger I, a behemoth of engineering, mounted an 88mm KWK-36 gun. A weapon originally designed to shred aircraft from the ground but repurposed to punch through Allied armor like tissue paper. At over 1,400 meters, its effective range outclassed anything the Allies fielded, and its 100 mm thick frontal armor shrugged off hits that would cripple lesser machines. The Panther, sleeker and more agile, introduced sloped armor that deflected incoming shells at angles, effectively doubling its thickness without added weight. With a high-velocity 75mm gun, it could penetrate a Sherman from 2,000 meters away. Allied soldiers whispered tales of these monsters with a mix of terror and respect. British tankers in North Africa dubbed the Tiger the Tommy Cooker after it vaporized their Matildas in flames. American GIs at Normandy beaches froze at the guttural roar of a Panther's Maybach engine, knowing one well-aimed shot could turn their M4 Sherman into a funeral pyre. The fear was visceral. These were not just tanks. They were symbols of Teutonic invincibility, engineered by men like Ferdinand Porsche and Adolf Henschel to dominate the one-on-one duel of armored warfare. In isolated engagements, a single Tiger could claim a dozen Shermans, fueling the legend of German superiority. But while German steel ruled the duel, American Shermans ruled the battlefield. The true edge lay not in the clash of guns, but in the invisible web of voices that turned scattered tanks into an unstoppable force. Chapter 2: America's Secret Advantage, the SCR 508 FM radio. At the heart of this revolution was the SCR 508, a compact marvel crammed into every U.S. Sherman starting in 1943. This frequency-modulated, FM, radio packed a 25-watt transmitter, crystal-controlled for rock-solid stability, delivering clear signals up to 4 miles in open terrain, even farther with relay. Unlike clunky vacuum tube relics, it resisted jamming and atmospheric interference, turning battlefield chatter into crisp, reliable commands. Operators could switch channels instantly, coordinate with infantry, artillery, or air support, all while the tank rumbled forward. Contrast this with the German Fug 5 and Fug 2 sets, amplitude-modulated, AM, radios with a puny 10-watt output, prone to static from engine noise, weather, or enemy jamming. They worked fine in calm conditions but devolved into garbled whispers amid the chaos of combat. Worse, only about 20% of panzer divisions were fully equipped with them by mid-war. Many crews relied on hand signals, runners, or yelling across open hatches, exposing commanders to sniper fire. Production lags and resource shortages left Tigers and Panthers as lone wolves, their radios more ornament than asset. Imagine the scene at Kasserine Pass: a Sherman commander, sweat beading under his helmet. Here's the lieutenant's voice cut through like a knife: "Pull back to Hill 169, flanking fire incoming." And pivots his platoon without missing a beat. Across the dust-choked valley, a Panzer IV commander bangs on the turret wall, screaming orders to baffled infantry who can't hear over the din. One side fights blind. The other, clairvoyant. Chapter 3, First Blood, Kasserine Pass, February 1943. The Tunisian desert baked under a merciless February sun, turning the Kasserine Pass into a cauldron of dust and desperation. U.S. forces, green and disorganized after torch landings, faced Erwin Rommel's Afrika Korps in their first major tank clash. Confusion reigned, American units from the 1st Armored Division straggled into position, maps outdated, supply lines stretched thin. German Panzers, Panthers and Panzer IVs surged forward like a steel tide, their 75mm guns barking death from concealed wadis. Yet amid the rout, a lifeline hummed in the Shermans' hulls. The SCR 508 crackled to life, feeding real-time retreat orders from 2 Corps HQ, all units, fall back to fade artillery support en route. Crews heard it clear as day, wheeling their M4s into defilade while German commanders pieced together reports from motorcycle couriers dodging bullets. Panzers advanced 40 miles in days, but their momentum stalled as isolated spearheads lost contact, ambushed by regrouping Yanks. Veterans' accounts paint the chaos. Lieutenant John Mason of the 1st Armored recalled, "We were running like hell, but the radio kept us together. Without it, we'd have been slaughtered piecemeal." On the German side, Panzer Grenadier Hans Weber wrote in his diary, "Orders came too late, the Americans melted away like ghosts, always one step ahead." Kasserine cost the U.S. 300 tanks and 6,500 casualties, a bloody baptism, but it exposed the radio's quiet power, turning defeat into a hard-learned lesson. Chapter 4, The Power of Networks. By Sicily and Italy, Shermans weren't lone gladiators, they were nodes in a lethal network. Picture a platoon cresting a ridge near Cassino, the lead tank spotter glimpses a German PaK-40 anti-tank gun nestled in olive groves, its crew oblivious. Bogey at grid 045-312, 88mm probable, the commander keys his mic. Within seconds, the call ripples, flankers adjust, a call for P-47 Thunderbolts goes out, and mortars zero in. The PaK erupts in flames before it fires a shot. That's the Sherman way, not the fastest or toughest, but woven into a tapestry of steel and signals. German tanks, for all their firepower, operated as isolated predators. A Panther might brew up 3 Shermans in a hedgerow duel, but without radio relay, its kill went unshared. Sister tanks charged blind into kill zones, or worse, idled awaiting flags from runners. Doctrine emphasized the blitzkrieg dash, but without voices to bind it, Panzers fragmented into duels they couldn't win alone. U.S. after-action reports tally it starkly, Sherman losses per engagement dropped 40% post-radio upgrades, as platoons multiplied their eyes and guns. Chapter 5, Voices from the Front. Even German aces confessed the fog. Otto Carius, Tiger commander and scourge of the Eastern Front with 150-plus kills, lamented in his memoir Tigers in the Mud, "Communication failed us at the worst moments, we'd spot the enemy, but by the time we signaled, the moment was lost in smoke and screams." Heinz Guderian, architect of Blitzkrieg, fumed in post-war writings about the infernal unreliability of our radios, blaming them for stumbles at Kursk. Rommel, ever the desert fox, wired Berlin from El Alamein, lack of wireless sets cripples coordination, infantry and armor fight as strangers. American tankers sang a different tune. In a dog-eared diary from Anzio, SGT. Elias Thorne scribbled, "Heard the CO's voice today like he was in the next seat, hold fire, friendlies inbound. Miracle, pure miracle. Without it, we're just targets." Private Roy Harlan, 2nd Armored, told oral historians, "Tiger shows up, we don't charge like idiots. Radio says flank left, arty on the way, boom, it's scrap." These whispers from the front underscore the shift. Technology wasn't just gear, it was the thread holding chaos at bay. Chapter 6, Normandy to the Rhine. D-Day's blood-red dawn tested the network anew. As the first Shermans, DD amphibians, splashed onto Omaha Beach, radios pierced the surf's roar, pathfinders, marked gaps, infantry advancing. Hobart's funnies funneled through minefields under voice-guided precision, turning beachheads from slaughterhouses to footholds. In Normandy's bocage, those sunken Norman lanes became death traps for isolated tanks. But Shermans adapted, hedge-cutter dozer blades cleared paths on the fly, while SCR 508 chatter summoned bazooka teams or typhoon strikes. A single platoon at St. Lo called in coordinates for 500 shells, shattering a Panzer Lehr counterattack. The Ardennes offensive, Hitler's last gamble in the Bulge, nearly broke the Allies with surprise snow and fog. German King Tigers lumbered through the mist, claiming dozens of Shermans in ambushes. Yet radios rallied the fractured line, ghost army deceptions fed false chatter to lure Panzers into traps, while 101st Airborne held Bastogne via urgent pleas, nuts, echoed back over the airwaves. From hedgerows to the Rhine, the web held, encirclements reversed, breakthroughs blunted, victory clawed from the jaws of rout. Chapter 7, The Hidden Victory. Wars aren't won by the biggest guns or thickest hides alone, they're decided by the sinews of logistics and command, the unglamorous gears that turn raw steel into symphony. For the Sherman, radios were invisible armor, shielding crews from the isolation that doomed better tanks. A 30-ton M4 might crumple under a Tiger's shell, but networked, it summoned Avengers, a flight of Mustangs, a barrage from 155s, a flanking squad. German brilliance, Ferdinand Porsche's curves, Krupp's alloys, shown in prototypes, but without reliable voices, Panzers were strategic orphans, brilliant but brittle. U.S. doctrine codified it, the combined arms team, where tankers, dogfaces, and flyboys spoke as one. By VE Day, Allies rolled over the Reich not on superior hulls, but on waves of coordination that German factories couldn't match. Conclusion, lessons for modern warfare. The principle endures, battlefield networks trump individual platform superiority every time. Today's militaries, NATO's Link 16 nets, the U.S. Army's JADC-2 echo the SCR 508's legacy, fusing drones, cyber, and hypersonics into digital webs. A single F-35's data burst can vector a carrier strike group, much as a Sherman once called hell from the sky. In the end, the Sherman may not have been the best tank on paper. But with radios, it forged the best army, and in that hum of electrons, the war's true turning point. Forget the Tiger's thunderous 88mm roar or the Panther's deadly slant. World War II's armored showdown wasn't won in one-on-one bloodbaths, it was decided by an invisible force, radio waves. In this gripping untold story, dive into the wireless wizardry that turned U.S. tank platoons into clairvoyant killers. While German aces like Otto Carius fumed in radio silence, American crews heard crisp orders amid the storm. Flank left, Artie inbound. Summoning hell from the sky and turning routes into triumphs. From Kasserine's dusty debacle to D-Day's bloody beaches, discover how the SCR 508 FM set became the Allies' deadliest weapon, proving that in war, connection conquers steel.